Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar, How People Buy. Today we're going to talk about the secrets and strategies behind the decisions that people make when they actually come to that decision of buying something from you or making that decision to choose to do business with you. So let's get into what this webinar is about. So today we're going to take you through an insight into different personality profiles. And the good news is I've got a link for you throughout the presentation. I'm going to direct you to a link where you can actually download your own personality profile questionnaire. So you can go through the questionnaire and then you'll get this free report. There's about 25-page report, and it will tell you what your style is. So today we're going to focus on knowing the different personality styles so that you can communicate well with people. And it's also really important, and it's quite interesting to find out what your own personality style is as well. So later in the webinar, I will certainly direct you to that page, and I hope that you do take the time. It takes about 15 minutes or so to complete and find out what your personality profile is. So today we're going to understand the different ways people communicate. And the reason for this is so that you can influence more effectively and you can understand people better. So what's that going to do? That's going to help you know their buying strategy so you can leverage this to your advantage. And guess what that means? That's going to improve your closing ratios, okay? And you're going to find out some really interesting ways that people process information. And so the way a person has their personality, and then the way they process information, and then the way they communicate back to you is pretty much a layered effect. And I'm going to take you through those different layers so you can look at it and pinpoint and say, I know why he's saying that, or I know why she's thinking that, because it's part of this personality profile and also the way people process information. So it's going to be a really, really fascinating and interesting webinar. I hope you'll all enjoy it. So just a little bit about me. As you know, for people who have listened to my webinars in the past, I have recently published my book, Cracking the Referral Code, and it is about how to get more referrals in your business. So yes, I'm a published author. I'm also a speaker, a business coach, and a marketing specialist. And it's my pleasure to present to you today on this topic of how people buy. So really looking forward to taking you through that. And also for the Melbourne people, please do stay on the line right to the end, the last 5 minutes. I have a fabulous offer for Melbourne people, so please do stay on the line. Okay, so let's talk about why is it great, why is it important, why is it valuable to know about personality profiling. Okay, well here are a couple. You can know their attributes and you can understand their preferred buying and decision-making style. You can work out their learning style. And sometimes in our industry, people have to learn a bit of the process of structuring their loans and structuring their finances. So there is a learning curve for your clients. And if you can tap into their learning style, that's going to help you communicate a lot better. Okay? Strategies to reduce conflict and increase harmony. Now guess what? That's really valuable at home as well with your spouse or partner. So not just with your clients, you can use this universally with your kids, with your work colleagues and friends and family members, just by understanding people's personalities. And it actually will help you understand how a person appears under stress and what they need at that given time, because what we're going to be talking about a little bit later is a person's natural state, and we always revert back to our natural state under stress. Okay, you're going to find out about what motivates the person, so what gets them to move to action. Okay, and for today, for the purpose of today, in this first section, because as I mentioned, there's 3 layering sections today that we will be discussing. The first section, we're going to be covering the DISC profiling format. And for any of you that may have heard of DISC before, I think you'll find that the way I present it will just take it up to the next level and give you a really good understanding of DISC from a different perspective, and how I layer on the other factors that really influence the way a person makes a decision and the way a person chooses to buy from you as opposed to someone else. Okay, so it's really important stuff. Let's talk a bit about how using the DISC profiling can help you in your business. Okay, you're going to communicate better, improve your closing ratios, you'll improve your service levels. Now, why would that be important? Because guess what? When you communicate really well and they understand you and you understand them, you're going to be able to serve that client better. You're going to be able to give them a really outstanding outcome. And guess what? That is an absolute priority in your business, because if they get a fantastic experience, they're more likely to refer you to others. So having a great interaction with the client and a higher level of understanding of their client needs is really critical in business. So today you'll understand a little bit more about who you are and who they are, and how to relate to them so they feel understood, which, as I mentioned, is very powerful. So we're going to be using the DISC format, and you can see there on the screen it's broken up. It's a circle with 4 quadrants. Now, the reality is that every one of us have parts of that personality in all of us. So you'll see there's the D, the I, the S, and the C. There's a bit of D, I, S, and C in all of us. What makes the difference from one person to another is pretty much the percentages or the quantities that they have, that they attribute in one particular area or another. Because typically what happens is that you'll be more dominant in one and possibly 2 areas. Okay? Now, what I'm going to be sharing with you today, you are more than likely already instinctively doing. And that's the key. It's instinctive, so it's unconscious. Now, when you're doing something unconscious, in an unconscious way, you don't necessarily always know that you're doing it, of course, because it's unconscious. What I want to do today is bring it to the conscious level, where you're completely aware of what it is you're doing, how you're interacting, how other people are interacting with you and their thinking styles, so that if you're doing it from a conscious perspective, you can replicate it again and again and again. Now, for those of you who may have heard, I'm a master practitioner of NLP and a master trainer of NLP. And what NLP is, it's about the science of communication. It's about the science of human behavior. How we think affects how we behave, and that affects the actions we take and what we do and the outcomes we get. And in the theories of NLP, what the founders did was they looked at very successful people, or they looked at people that were getting a particular result. And many of them were getting that result unconsciously, didn't even know how they were doing it. They'd say to a great runner, how do you get to be so fast? Or they'd say to a great tennis player, how do you do that? And invariably the tennis player would say, I don't know, because it was instinct. It was just, practice and years of it. And so they started to break down the models and the steps of what that person did, and they have especially done this in communication, and that's what you're going to learn today. So we're going to give you a little bit of a crash course in some of the NLP communication models. And why that's effective for you is because I'm breaking it down step by step, and you can start to go, I can understand what that person is doing, saying, and thinking, and why they are giving me that answer. And if you can see that consciously, you can replicate it over and over and over again, anytime you choose, as opposed to being at the mercy of instinctively trying your best to try and manage this particular client. And as you know, some clients are more difficult than others to manage. So this will definitely be helpful to you to manage those troublesome hard work clients. Okay, so we're going to take what you've been doing instinctively and make it a conscious thing. So really fascinating. So let's talk about the D and the I. So we'll go into each one in detail, but I'll tell you that the D personality there in the red is called the dominance. They are results orientated, they are direct, they are competitive, they are very focused, they are fast, they want to get things done. You've got the influence, they've got enthusiasm, they're friendly, they're optimistic. The S is for steadiness, sincerity, patience and modest, and compliance is accurate, cautious and contemplative. So let's go through each one of those. If you're a DI, you're more outgoing. If you're an IS, you're more people orientated. If you're an SC, you're an S or you're in the C category, you're a little bit more reserved. If you're an S leaning towards C, and if you're a C and leaning into a D, you can be task orientated. So you can see there that the D can be outgoing and task orientated. The I can be outgoing and people orientated. The S can be people orientated and yet reserved. And the C is typically reserved and task orientated. So it's a really good way of understanding the different ways people are. So what personality are you dealing with? Let's go through one by one each of the categories just to give you an understanding so that when you're with someone, you can start to say, oh, okay, this person exhibits traits that might be an I, or this person looks more like an S. And that way I'll tell you the best approach for that person. Okay, so let's talk about our dominance or our decisive person. This person is very, very clear on what they want. They make decisions pretty quickly. They know their mind. They want to move very quickly. It's like, come on, let's get it going. Don't waste time. Don't fluff around. If you've ever met those people, they come into your office and they go, okay, so what's the best interest rate? So what can you do for me? And they're very, very big on just getting a result. They've come there for a particular outcome and they're there for their result. The interesting thing about a D personality or the dominance is once they've got their result, then they'll sort of settle down and then they're happy for a chat. But typically they want to get in and just they've been driving to meet with you or whatever, and they've just got all these questions, or they just want to get it sorted out as quickly and as easily and as painlessly as possible. And then they kind of take a breath, and then they might be ready to have a bit of a conversation after the task is done. So they're very results focused. So a person whose dominance can sometimes make you feel like, oh, whoa, okay, here you go. All right, okay, well, let's get started. There's no sort of, hi, how you going? Did you have a nice weekend? Typically the D personalities don't do that until after they've got what they've come for. My natural state is a D personality, but I am actually a very high D and a very high I. So fortunately, I can tone down my D, and so I don't come across as abrupt, and I let my I kick in, which I'll tell you about next. So certainly, as I mentioned before, you can have attributes of 2, and it's always good if you do fall back onto 2, that you kind of seesaw between the 2. So with the dominant personality, you've basically got to give them what they want as quickly and as easily as you possibly can. And they're the people that will be ringing you, 24 hours later, is my loan approved? And so you've got to manage that. So the best thing to do is to give them timelines, to say, okay, now we've done this, we're going to submit, this will take so many days, the next step will take so many days, and give them a timeline. And they work really well if you say to them, we will contact you via email at this milestone, for example, conditional approval, or we will contact you at this milestone when the valuation has been returned. And if they know that there's a system and something's going to be happening and it's going to give them the result that they're after, and it's going to be quick and easy and efficient and they don't have to do much, they're going to absolutely love that. So that's a great way to communicate with those D personalities. Okay, then we go into the influence personality. And that is the person who loves to interact with others. You know what? They really love to have a chat. And sometimes you think, wow, these people seem like they've got all the time in the world. How the heck do they get anything done? And this is why I say, fortunately, we tend to have two that are more dominant. So if you've got a person who's very high I, and they love to have a chat and they love to get together and catch up with people and, Billy, have a chat, he is definitely a high I. So if you had a meeting with a person who was influence or interactive, you would need to really get to know them a little bit first. You'd need to take a good 5 minutes to have a chat to them, find out about their spouse or their kids or what do you do, all of that sort of thing. And they would absolutely love you for that. And then they would kind of take a deep breath and say, oh, okay, well, I'm here about my loan or I'm here about my insurances, financial plan, whatever they have come to you for. So they are the people that need to do pretty much the reverse of the D. The D gets in, wants a result, wants the answers, and then is happy to have a briefer chat. The high I, if you get on the phone with a high I, they'll, hi, how you going? Have you been? What's been happening? Even if they've never met you before. They will be really friendly and polite and lovely and just very, very interactive, and they love people around them and very warm people. So in order to communicate well with them, you can't push them too quickly. You can't just get straight into the business end of things. You must really interact with them. And they love when you show emotion. They're very, very big on showing emotion. Then we go into the S personality. And the S personality is very stable and steady. Now this person is very routine orientated. They really don't like much change. So if you're going to shift them to a different lender or something, they might look at you and feel a little bit uneasy. So you really have to explain to them the benefits. The benefits, what's in it for them, why you're going to make things a little bit different, why you're going to change things. They tend to be a bit reluctant to make decisions and to do anything that's a little bit outside of their comfort zone. So what they really need is a helping hand. They really need your guidance and your support and your wisdom and your experience and knowledge to really lead them to where they need to go. So the D personality wants a quick result. The I personality wants to make a friend, and the S personality really wants you to hold their hand and support them. So that's the different personalities, and that's the way to work with that S personality. And you'll notice them, they tend to be a little bit more timid. They tend to be a little bit quieter. They're friendly, they're polite, they're lovely people. They make friends easily, but they're just that little bit quieter, perhaps a little bit less outgoing than what an I personality would be. And they're very loyal people. They're very loyal. Once you win an S personality, they are very loyal. They really don't want to change from you being their financial professional, and that's a great thing for you. It's a great thing to know. You think to yourself, okay, I've got this S personality here in the office with me, and that's great because once I win them over, they'll be a loyal client forever. So very, very valuable for you to know. Then we get into our compliance and our conscientious personality type. Now these people are very, very organised. They're very detailed focused. Quite often they're HR people, accountants tend to be very compliance orientated. They want systems, they want procedures, they want standards. They will want to know all of the ins and outs of that loan. They will want to know, they want to see you as a very detailed person for them to feel comfortable. When they can see that you've really got their best interest at heart and that you are taking the time to take them through the detail, you'll win them over. A lot of people lose this type of personality type because they just skim the surface, and that person doesn't feel understood and feel heard and doesn't feel like they've had enough depth of knowledge. Okay, so that's the way you can absolutely lose that client, is just by skimming over the surface. How do you know that that person is a compliance person? They're going to ask you very detailed questions. The questions are going to be fairly long. D personality will ask fairly short questions. An I personality will eventually get to the point. So they'll ask long questions, but in such a friendly, outgoing way. The S personality is pretty much to the point, very gentle and soft in their questioning approach, but the compliance person, they are very clear and very clever, and they want a depth of information. So they'll ask you questions, and then they'll keep asking, they'll kind of drill down to the next level of questioning and the next level and the next level, and then they'll get their moment, which is basically them saying, yep, now I've got it. Now this person, I know I can feel comfortable with them. So if you brush them off or just say, oh, here's the fact sheet, or here's this, or here's that, they're going to be grateful that they've got the fact sheet, etc. But if you can take a moment to just even walk them through and say, okay, well, these are the features, this is the loan products, turn the page, this is the fees and charges, etc. And just walk them through a little bit, and then, of course, they can take it home and read it themselves. They're going to be so much more grateful. They're going to feel like, oh, my finance professional, my mortgage broker really gets me, and they'll feel very comfortable with you. And so you can communicate with them, you can understand that personality style and work with them to the style that they prefer. Because what tends to happen is that we communicate to others based on our own personality style. And that's why with some people we're going to just click. We're going to get on like a house on fire, and typically it'll be that person that is very similar to us. But that might only be, if there's 4 types, that might be only 20-25% of the population. You really don't want to reduce your market share. You want to be able to communicate and be very effective and just sort of instinctively know the personality style and modify yourself to that person's style. So that's why we're getting into this conscious awareness, because unconsciously you've noticed people in the past and you've thought, oh, okay, this person's very gentle, this person's very quiet, I'll go easy on this person, okay? But now, knowing the personality profiles, you can understand, oh, so that person's an S. So I really need to hold their hand and walk them through this, and they'll love me. They'll think, yes, this is the mortgage broker for me. And the compliance, for example, as we've been speaking, if you're a D personality and you're to the point, let's get it done, okay, we're ready to submit, you will absolutely freak that compliance person out, because they'll think, oh, this person hasn't even, taken the time to get to know what I really need. The reality is, you probably know your job so well that you know exactly what that person needs, but they need more time, they need more detail for them to feel comfortable. And so that's where it's kind of a little bit of a point to remember, that you need to match their personality style as best you can, and kind of put your personality style to the side for that meeting or that interaction, so that you can be most effective. Okay, so what is our goal? It's about focusing on them. I think I made that point very, very clear. We want to focus on the client. That's why we want to put aside our particular personality style and our natural state, because of course we can modify ourselves to all 4, can't we? There are times when we have to do compliance in our job, and we may not be a compliance person, but we have to get in there and we have to exercise that muscle, and we have to do it. And there are times when we may not be the outgoing person, but we have to, get out there and be more outgoing and be more friendly, even though that might not be our natural state. So we have the ability to tap into all 4. And that's what I'm asking you to do, to be mindful and tap into all 4 as needed. Okay, so when we have a focus that's outward driven and it's all about them, you can best provide them with the service that they need and the service that they deserve. And that is a truly effective way to carry out business. So when you communicate in their style, you're going to speak and they will actually hear. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Have you ever had the situation where a person says, and sometimes it's our spouse, yeah, I heard you, but I didn't really register. I think we can all relate to that. I know I have said it, and I know I have heard people say it to me. I heard you, but I didn't really register. So this is about when you speak, they will hear. Okay, but on the flip side, in contrast, if you don't interact with them in their personality type, you'll actually miss out a lot of the information. So you're going to miss out just as much as they are. And you won't get your messages across as easily, and the whole interaction won't be as comfortable as it could have been. So there are some really key benefits to communicating and just to knowing their style. Really important. So let's talk about how we can get your personality profile done. Okay, there is a very comprehensive personality profile. If you go to Google, and it's done by Tony Robbins, and feel free to you can Google, the simplest way is to Google Tony Robbins disc profile, and then you'll just click on personal strengths profile. So I'll just give everybody a minute to write that down. Or if you're very particular, if you're very C orientated, you might want to go to http://www.tonyrobbins.com/ue/disc-profile.php. But I do encourage you to get this. It's a 22-page report, and then there's the extra bonus report on your values. So some of the questions are really interesting, and my advice to you is answer the questions as if nobody was around. Don't answer the questions as if you're in the office and have to be nice to everybody or have to do things in a particular way, because of course the way we are in our natural state and the way we are when we're with family can be different. The way we are in our natural state and the way we are with friends at a party can be different. The way we are in our natural state and the way we are at work can be different. So to get the most accurate response for yourself, my suggestion is that you just do that in your most natural state. So let's go on to the next layer. How do people decide to buy? And I wonder if you've ever heard the phrase, people buy on emotion and they justify it with logic. So every decision we make, you buy on emotion. And the thing is that the emotional aspect probably is only a couple of seconds instinctively that, yep, I want that, or yes, I can make that decision with that person. And then we spend the next, depending on your personality type, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, justifying that decision or that purchase with logic. Okay, so that's what most people don't realize is the emotion decision is made pretty much in a heartbeat, very quickly, and then we start to justify our decision with logic. So we're going to talk a little bit about how people start to come to the way that they process information and the way that they start to process their thinking. Selling is a transference of emotion, as I said, and the truth is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it really is about the focus. As I've mentioned before, the focus is all about the client. If you show your care, then your client's going to really reciprocate with being a loyal client. I think we've all made a purchase from time to time where the salesperson has been rude or nasty and we've thought, oh, we really didn't want to make that purchase, but maybe we had to. But when we get those really great salespeople that seem to care and really show a lot of kindness towards us and a lot of attention to detail and really go out of their way, they're the people that we do want to buy from. So that statement's really apt. In a business sense, you really do want to adopt a business relationship with your clients, because if it's merely a transaction, people won't get that care factor. And then they don't stay as loyal clients, and then they don't refer you to others. So really, as best you can, build these quality relationships. And by layering this communication, as we will today with these 3 layers, you will really be able to effectively build these great business relationships. So what method of communication do clients want? We have been through what personality style a client is. Are they D, I, S or C? So we've done that. So we can kind of read them from when they first walk in the office or get on the phone, the D personality, hi, how you going, what's your best rate? So you'll know immediately that personality type. Best not to say to that person, hi, how you going, how was your weekend? And they may not take too kindly to it. They want the business end of things done. So knowing that, how you've seen them dispose their personality in front of you, now it's really important for us to go into their communication style, okay? Because if we can now, we've seen the way their personality is, we're starting to understand, okay, what style they are and how we need to notice them and the particular way that they are. Now we need to go on to the next layer or the next level, which is how do we communicate back to them? What do we say and what do we notice even more on the next level to ensure that we have got the best possible communication, okay? And that's going to help their decision-making capabilities. It's going to help you understand them better. It's really going to be the most effective thing you can do is notice their personality style and then communicate with them. So we do that through a particular process from NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's called the representational system. Now, please don't be too alarmed. I know it's like, whoa, big phrase, but it's actually about gaining an enormous amount of rapport with someone and noticing certain things that they do and say that will give you hints to communicate better with them. So you're going to have 4 more categories, okay? We're going to have visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and auditory digital. So if a person is visual, they will typically look up when they talk to you. Now, if they're on the phone, you can't see them. So notice things like, do they say the words see, you, clearly? Yeah, clearly we need to get this done. I notice that this interest rate is higher than that interest rate. Yep, those documents, they all look fine to me. I need to discover the best way to get this loan sorted out quickly, okay? They'll tend to speak fast and they'll tend to lean in when they speak to you when you're working closely with them. So the key point here to notice is that if you are face-to-face, they'll tend to look up a lot, okay? They're not trying to be rude and not make eye contact with you because they communicate through pictures. So they look up to that area of the brain which is either recalling pictures and it's recalling information in the form of pictures, or it's constructing information in the form of pictures. So you've got one side is recall, one side is construct. When they're constructing, it's because you've asked them a question like, would you like to invest in property in the future? Or what area would you like to move to? And maybe they haven't thought about that before, so they need to look up to their construct side of where the brain functions and create that information through a series of pictures. These people love it when you get pen and paper and you write things down for them, or if you're trying to explain a structure, you draw little pictures of the entity and the proprietorship and the trust and etc., etc. So they love all of that. So they're very visual. Typically, these people will make decisions pretty quickly. So that's a good thing to know. So visual people, the words they use, see, view, clearly, notice. So you might have a personality that is an I personality, so very friendly, and they are visual. So you're going to be very friendly with them, and you're going to say things like, let's have a look at this particular lender. Okay, can you see here the interest rates and the fees? Okay, so you're going to be friendly with them because that's their personality style. And the next layer is you're actually going to communicate with them in their same language. It's like if a person was German and you were Chinese, you would find it hard to communicate. But if you both have the same language, if the German person could speak Chinese, then guess what? You're going to have a whole lot better experience communicating in the same language. This is very much a spin-off from that type of a theme. Now, if a person is auditory, that means they love sounds, or they can be very sensitive to sounds as well. Sometimes they'll be in a restaurant and say, "Oh, it's too loud in here." They typically love music, and they will say things like, "Yeah, I hear you. Sounds good. All right, speak soon. Let's discuss this. Can we catch up and discuss this?" And when they're talking to you, if you're seeing them face to face, unlike the visual person who looks up to construct some pictures, this auditory person will move their eyes side to side because they are filtering out sounds. And they're really good on the phone. They will know on the phone, you might even be auditory yourself, and they will tell whether a person is trustworthy over the phone, or they will come back and tell you that person's dodgy. And you'll think, how do you know they're dodgy? Haven't even met them. But they will know because of the tone of the voice, and they'll just get this instinctive feeling from the sounds that they put together. So it's really interesting. An auditory person, they will think in terms of sounds, and it's like they're replaying the words that you just said. So they might take a little bit longer to answer you in terms of they'll be not as quick as, for example, a visual person, because they're just replaying in their mind what they just said to you. So if you've got a person who's an S personality, steady, and loves to be organized and loves routine, and they're an auditory person, you're going to take them by the hand and guide them, and you're going to use the words like, "Okay, let's have a talk about what's important to you for your loan," because then you're communicating them in their language and at their level. Okay? And sometimes you might notice with the auditory person, they have a little bit of a sing-song style to their voice. So just start to notice that if you see a person who's like, "Hi John, how you going? How's your weekend been?" That's an auditory person. You'll know immediately, oh right, that's an auditory person. I'm going to use the words that relate to sound and talking and discussion, and they will have really quick rapport. If you speak to people in their preferred representational system, the way that they process information, you will have immediate rapport with them, and that will lead you to a sense of trust so very quickly. You'll overcome all obstacles. It will really take the doubt out of their mind that you are the best person to look after their financial needs. All doubts removed, no reservations, because guess what? You're communicating effectively. And when you communicate effectively, that means that person will have an immense sense of trust and rapport, and you can influence them. Okay? And that's really important. If a person's kinesthetic, what you're going to find is they will be a very feeling person. Okay? They'll love, and it may not be appropriate in the business sense, but they love to give you a hug, or they might rub your shoulder, or they will give you a really warm handshake, because they're a very feeling person. Okay? Now, they will use words like, "I feel this is a good option. Yeah, I need to get a grip on this loan because I just can't get a sense of how it should be put together." They'll say things like, "Let's catch up. I need to get a hold of this concept." They generally speak softer, and they generally speak slower, and they'll often take a few moments to get the feeling before they answer you. So you might say to them, "How do you feel about this particular lender?" And they'll just stop for a minute, and they'll tend to look down because they're tapping into their feelings. and they'll process that information, that question that you've just asked them, from a feeling perspective, and then they'll look at you and they'll give you that answer. So the best way to communicate with this person is to allow them time, okay? Allow them the time that they need to interpret the information you've said, interpret the question, and then they'll give you a response. If you rush this person, you'll lose them because they won't feel comfortable. They'll feel quite distressed. And this is the person who is really very, very kind, and you'll just notice that what they do is a little bit slower typically, and that's just because they need to get a feeling. They need to actually like you before they can do business with you. They need to feel that you're the right person to help them. So definitely do take a bit of time with the kinesthetic person. Then we get into the auditory digital person. Now, the auditory digital person, they are the thinkers. They process everything you say with a thinking aspect. Okay, so let me think about that for a moment. Let me just gather my thoughts. Okay, hang on. Let's consider the pros and cons. We need to weigh this up. Let's get this strategy right. I need a process. Okay, so they think very logically, and they will also look down, typically to the other side. And when you ask them a question, they will look down and they go into thinker mode, and they need to access all of the thoughts, and you'll almost see them almost like having a conversation with themselves in their mind while they think of the right answer. They're very careful to answer you. They want to get it right. They want to get the right answer, get it right, and they won't actually answer your question or make a decision until everything's right. These are the people that look through loan documents and ask you, what was that stamp duty fee? What was this title search fee, etc. They are the very, very, very detailed people. So if you get a compliance personality who is auditory digital, you're going to really have to give them an enormous amount of information, brochures, fact sheets. They will take home all the documents and read them from cover to cover and come back with questions. The best way to communicate with this person is just to say, take this away, have a read of it, have a think about it, and then I'll call you in 2 days. Is 2 days okay? And if you've got any further questions, I'm sure you'll have some questions. Even if you say, I'm sure you'll have some questions, that gives them relief because they can go, oh, good. Of course I'm going to have questions because I'm an auditory digital person and I need to have all the right answers. And by you saying, I'm sure you'll have some questions and we can address those once you've had a really good opportunity to read through those documents and have a think about it. They will absolutely think you so very much understand who they are and what they need. So that will be a very, very powerful way to communicate with that auditory digital person. Okay, so that is the second layer. So to be most effective, we've got that first layer of the personality, and you can pretty much tell what that personality is within a few minutes of meeting the client or meeting the person. Okay, you'll also very quickly be able to layer on the second aspect, and you'll be able to say, okay, if you want to look at which way their eyes move, you can. Some people, I teach this to say to me, oh, that's all too hard, and that's okay. But definitely you can notice their personality as layer one, and certainly you can notice the words that they're saying. Are they saying think words? Are they saying feeling words? Are they saying sounds like, discuss, talk words? Or are they saying look, see, clearly? So if you start to notice those two aspects, those two layers, and you can do it in a matter of moments, very, very quickly when you meet someone. You'll start off a bit clunky at first. You'll be thinking of, oh, I'm trying to focus on their personality. Oh, what words are they using? That's okay. Trust me, when I first learned this, I thought I would never master it. I thought, oh my goodness, this is all too overwhelming. But I've absolutely mastered it, and in fact I teach it and I love it, and I notice so many things from different people based on this. Now, just from those two aspects, let me tell you how you can notice somebody's buying criteria. I will tell you about my cousin who lives in London, and when I was recently visiting him, he bought a house. And I said, Lou, how did you decide what decision process did you go to? How did you decide that this was the right house? Now just start to notice that the answers he gave me, and you can pinpoint the personality type and, more importantly, the representational system. So just listen carefully to what he said. He said, well, Rose, I researched the area and I thought, yep, it's a good area. It's got good schools for the kids and it's got great access to public transport so I can get to and from work. And then I went in and, it just felt really nice. There was a really good, I had a good vibe about it. And I looked around and there was a lovely sort of the nice big glass I could see outside, and, it just felt right. So if we deconstruct this now, he said, I researched the area. That's auditory digital. So he's tapped into, in his buying cycle, which everybody's can be different, he's tapped into AD, auditory digital. And then he said, it felt really nice. So he went into a kinesthetic state. And then he said he looked around and noticed the beautiful window and the sunshine coming through. And then he went back to kinesthetic. It just felt right. So you could say to someone, how did you decide to buy this house? Or how did you decide to go with that particular lender last time? Or how did you decide to choose that particular mortgage broker last time? They will give you the sequence. And if you listen to their language, you will realize that if, in the case of Louis, my cousin, he needed the auditory digital component done first. So he needed the pros and the cons, the research, what have you. And then he needed a good feeling. And then he became visual. And then he went back to the feeling. You can ask and do this with your friends and just have a bit of fun with them. I do it all the time. People don't know I'm doing it. It's quite good. And you can actually deconstruct their pattern, the order to which they buy. So you know in the background their personality type. You're now asking them, how did you make the decision to buy that new car? And find out what order they went to. How many times did they go and see the car dealer? Because typically most people are triple converters. They need to see or hear or know the information 3 times over before they're ready to buy. And that might be why some people shop around, because they need to hear it, see it, or register it a few times. So if they're interacting with you a few times over the phone, through emails, through face-to-face, if you can have those 3 components of communication put into your sales process, guess what? That triple converter is more likely to stay with you. So that's how we put the 2 layers together. Now we'll get into the 3rd layer, which is a lot of fun. But just before we do, as you can tell, the benefits are clear. You look like you're reading that client, and so accurately. You'll be in such a high state of trust and rapport, you can influence them easily, and your service levels will be improved because you're both on the same page. You're going to be able to serve that client to their best needs. And they will really put their trust in you, and that's really, really powerful for your business, because that's what creates loyal advocates for your client base, who then refer you to others. So the 3rd layer is really quite interesting, and I'm actually very proud to tell you that this layering is not something I learned from a particular institute or group. I learned each of these aspects at different courses, but I personally have layered these together. So there's nowhere else in the world that you'll hear this particular methodology and this particular concept, because I've created it. So I'm absolutely proud to share that with you today. So let's talk about the 3rd layer, which is matches and mismatches. And you're probably thinking, what the heck are matches and mismatches? It's a bit like matching socks and mismatching socks. Okay, and then we're going to go on to internal and external decision makers, and this is the third and final layer. Okay, so let's talk about the mismatches and the matches first. Okay, matches, they will want to see that you are discussing or demonstrating something that is like something that they're already familiar with and know about. So they will say things like, oh, is that like my current loan with, the offset account and that little bit that's split? And you'll say, yes, that's right, it's like that. Or they might say, oh, is that credit card facility like the one where you put your money in, but you don't have a credit limit? And you'll say, yeah, that's right, that's like that. So these people will only feel comfortable if what you're explaining to them is like something they already know about. Okay, so that's where they feel most comfortable. And it's in layer 2 and 3 where people actually make their decisions. So this is really important. Knowing about matching and mismatching, and especially knowing about internal and external decision making, this is where the rubber hits the road, guys, and where everybody finally makes their decision. So we get them with rapport by knowing their personality type and working beautifully with that. We start to communicate well with them in their representational systems, and now we want to move to decision-making factors. Mismatches. You may think that mismatches are hard to deal with. Mismatches will automatically go against you, the opposite of what you may suggest. Some people refer to it as reverse psychology. If I say the opposite, then there is an element of that, but it's an actual personality type. It's actually part of that person's wiring. And please know, there is no right or wrong. There is no right personality style in the disc. In the representational systems, whether you're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or auditory digital, there is no right or wrong. Okay, so with the mismatches and the matches, again, there's no right or wrong, but knowing which one, that's incredibly powerful. Okay, the mismatcher will automatically go against you. I had one of my brokers came to me and said, oh, my business partner is doing my head in. Everything, I have these great ideas, and he's like, yeah, but what about that? But what about this? But have you addressed this? What a mismatcher needs is they need choice. Mismatchers never want to be locked into just one option. So if you're sitting in front of a mismatcher, and typically if you say, oh, I think it'd be good if you looked at the fixed rate. No, I don't want a fixed rate, I want a variable. So you think, oh, okay, so we'll look at the variable. But if you give them choice, if you say, hey, we've got the option of fixed, we've got the option of variable, or we've got the option of a mix of fixed and variable, what out of those three appeals to you? You are going to absolutely win the mismatcher, because the mismatcher loves 2 and preferably 3 choices. They don't want to feel like you are telling them one choice or telling them what to do. So if you can give them choices, you'll definitely win them over. Let's go on to the next area, which is how do you know which one you are? Okay, so have a look at the shapes there in front of you. Are these shapes the same or are they different? A person who goes with matching, who's a matcher, will say, yeah, they're all the same. They're all blue, they're all rectangles. A person who is a true mismatcher will say they are none of them the same. A person who is a medium mismatcher that will say, well, 2 are the same and 1 is different. So that's how you can know. But look, at the end of the day, you can't go and ask your client for all 3 blue rectangles, say, now, which ones are the same or different? But I just wanted to use that as an example for yourself. But you'll know from their language, is this like this? Or if everything you say, they go the opposite way, or a majority of that. And then you can deal with them better. So with the matches, you find something that's the same. With the mismatches, you give them choice and options and don't ever make them feel that they're locked into just one way. Now we're going to go into internal decision makers. These people, they make their decision based on what's important to them. They do their own personal research, okay? They will sometimes ask others during their research phase, what do you think of this house in this particular area? Or what do you think of this project? Or what do you think of this lender? Okay, so they'll do all of that, but then they'll do their own research and they'll come to their own decision themselves. The worst thing you can say to an internal decision maker is, I think you should do this, I think you should do that. Because they're just going to feel like, hey, back off, I don't care what you think, I want to do this. So the way to know, how do you know who's an internal decision maker? Well, they're the people that will go, okay, I need to work it out. Okay, well, yep, I need to think about that for a moment, or yep, I'll come back to you. If they want to come back to you, then they need to maybe go away and process it for a little bit themselves, do their own personal research, and then come back to you with their internal decision. If the person is an external decision maker, they need to consult with quite a few people. They want to speak to their brother, they want to speak to the guy at the office, they want to speak to the person at the barbecue. They want to get as many people involved as possible. I've had brokers tell me that their clients have said to them, will you come to the auction with me? And the brokers thought, gosh, why do I need to come to the auction with my client? Surely they know what they want. They really do need lots of opinions and lots of hand holding. And if you can provide them with, well, I think you should do this, or based on what you've told me, I think that particular lender and that particular structure is going to be really suitable to you. They will typically say things like, what's everybody doing at the moment? Is everybody fixing? What lender are most people doing? They want to know what everybody else is doing. They want to get other people's opinion, and they absolutely love it when other people do the research for them. So there's your external decision maker and your internal decision maker. So you can work with both of those. By knowing this, you can leave the internal person to make their own decision. You can let the external person have lots of support. You now have the ability to recognize a person's personality style through disc profiling. Layer 1. Layer 2, you can add to the process and get them to process information, understanding the way that they process information through their representational system, and just notice the words they use so that you can communicate even better with your client. Then in the third layer, it's really important to determine if they're a mismatcher or a matcher. You find what's the same for the matcher, you give the mismatcher choice, and even if they look like they're being argumentative or abrupt, they're actually not. They don't mean to be. Cut them some slack because they really don't mean to be, and start to notice, do they make decisions internally? Do they need to go away, process everything, do some research and come back with their decision, or do they need an external perspective? So that's the end of the webinar. I want to thank you for your participation. So just attention to all Melbourne brokers. Melbourne brokers, if you can stay on the line, I have a golden opportunity to increase your profits and get more clients, okay? It's called the Business Results Inner Circle. I'm doing it in Melbourne. I've actually done it in Sydney. And it's a full day that you work with me. There's a maximum of 10 brokers in any group. We're going to be doing it March, April, May and June. It'll be from 9 till 5 p.m. You will earn a total of 24 CPD points for this. And just to give you some results, one of the gentlemen, John, that I worked with, he has more than doubled his settlements from working with me for 3 months. And he's absolutely over the moon with the results he's getting. So it is an opportunity to get together with in a small way and get one-on-one business coaching for what's important to you. I'm not going to have a set criteria for the 4 months. I want to sit with all the people and brainstorm the top things that are most important. Is it marketing? Is it client acquisition? Is it getting more referrals? Is it having a business plan? Is it having a marketing plan? Do you want to start implementing fee for service and you don't know how? It's very, very strategic. It's very focused on your business, okay? And it's absolutely at a phenomenal price. So normally you'd pay $300 an hour for a business coach. A full day would cost you $2,250. I'm putting in bonuses of training manuals and campaigns to do marketing, etc. So that's worth over $500 value. So you're going to have a value. Normal value would be $2,750, but if you register now, it's $300 a month for 4 months. So the cost of 1 hour with a business coach, and you get to spend the full day with me, and we work and focus very, very tightly on your business. It's for the people who want results, okay? This isn't for everybody, but if you're serious about increasing your profits and increasing your client base, and you want to commit to 4 months working with me in the Melbourne area, then definitely send me an email, rose@mapsystem, and it'll be my pleasure to have a chat to you, and we'll see if you're suitable for the group. And I'm really excited to be bringing this business results inner circle to Melbourne. It's going to be great. I can't wait to share with you the results that people get throughout those 4 months. So go ahead and register today. Send me an email. As I said, it is limited to 10 people. So get in early and don't miss out. Thank you very much for today. This is the conclusion. I look forward to your feedback and your emails. Take care and bye for now. This is Roseanne Portia from Map System.